Have you ever sensed something unsettling beneath a polite smile, like a hidden storm ready to break? As we age, we often notice subtle shifts in how others treat us, but are these shifts signs of deeper, hidden feelings? What if the people around you are masking envy, resentment, or even hatred behind kindness and fake concern? Have you ever felt a strange tension with someone who acts kindly, yet something about their behavior feels off? Especially as we grow older, we become more attuned to these subtle changes in how people treat us. Sadly, not every shift comes from love or care. Some stem from hidden envy, deep-seated bitterness, or even long-buried resentment. Often, these feelings emerge when they think we're too tired, too slow, or too old to notice. Carl Jung once said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." But it works both ways. The way people behave around us often reveals their true, unconscious feelings, and as we get older, these hidden truths become more difficult to ignore. In this video, we're going to explore 7 subtle signs that someone may secretly resent or even hate you, all while masking it with politeness or worse, passive-aggressive behavior disguised as care. These signs may seem small, but they matter. Spotting them early can help you protect not just your heart, but also your dignity, your time, and your inner peace. If you're over 60, 70, or even 80, and you've started to notice people treating you differently, perhaps a bit colder or more dismissively, this video is meant for you. You're not imagining it, and you certainly don't have to accept it. Sign number 1. Coldness in everyday moments. There's a particular kind of silence that doesn't feel calm or comforting. It feels sharp, intentional. It's like walking into a room and suddenly the conversation stops. Or you share a light-hearted comment, expecting a smile or a laugh, but instead, there's nothing. No eye contact, no response, just that heavy, awkward pause that makes you question yourself. Whether you actually said something wrong or not, these aren't just harmless, awkward moments. They're symptoms of something much deeper. Carl Jung often pointed out that what people withhold can reveal just as much as what they openly say. As we age, those withheld words, the ones that remain unspoken, can sting even more than direct insults. You might start to notice that someone who once checked in frequently now barely reaches out. Their replies to your texts or calls become delayed or disinterested. When you're around, they seem unusually busy, eager to end the conversation, or simply avoid asking how you've been. On the surface, it may seem like they're just caught up in their own lives. But in reality, this coldness is a subtle form of emotional distancing. Why does this happen so often in later years? For many people, whether they realize it or not, they begin to devalue others who no longer provide something they want in return, whether that's status, money, or even attention. Take the story of Frank, an 81-year-old man who used to go fishing every weekend with his nephew. Their bond seemed strong, but after Frank retired, sold his boat, and wasn't the fun uncle with fishing gear anymore, the visits stopped. No arguments, no falling out, just silence. That silence told Frank everything he needed to know. This kind of wound runs deep because it's about emotional invisibility. When someone close to you starts treating your presence as if it's irrelevant, when your words seem to carry no weight and your stories suddenly seem to bore them, it's often rooted in quiet judgment. More often than not, it's tied to resentment they don't have the courage to admit. What's most important is this: do not blame yourself. The older you get, the more essential it becomes to guard your energy fiercely. That includes recognizing when it's time to stop chasing after people who meet your kindness with cold indifference. Keep in mind, coldness isn't always accidental or passive. Sometimes it's deliberate, carefully measured, and intentional. It's a clear sign that someone no longer values your presence in their life. Trust that feeling. It's your hard-earned wisdom speaking. And if someone shows you this type of quiet distance, believe them the first time. Sign 2. Subtle undermining and passive remarks. Not all resentment looks angry. Sometimes it hides behind politeness, a smile, or what people like to call just being honest. You can hear it in the tone they use when commenting on your choices. You still drive at your age? Oh, I didn't expect you to know how to use that app. You're remembering that wrong. I was there. At first glance, these comments may seem harmless, almost playful, but they often leave a sting that lingers far longer than you realize. And when these remarks start to stack up, they form a clear picture, not of admiration, but of quiet resentment. Carl Jung believed that every person carries a shadow, those hidden, often unconscious parts of themselves that contain feelings they are too ashamed to admit. As you grow older, wiser, and perhaps more at peace with yourself, your very presence can stir up those shadows in others. Sometimes, just being around you reminds them of their own aging, their missed opportunities, or even their failures. That discomfort doesn't always show up in obvious ways. It often appears through little jabs, snide remarks, subtle corrections, or seemingly innocent jokes made at your expense. But don't be fooled. This isn't just harmless teasing. It's something far more damaging. It's emotional erosion. Imagine Linda, a vibrant 78-year-old woman who stayed active, took up painting, and kept her cheerful outlook on life. She had a longtime friend, Janet, and they would meet for lunch every week. But as Linda continued to age gracefully, Janet's comments began to shift. You're still bothering with makeup? Your son bought you that? He must be trying to make up for something. Must be nice to still have enough energy to go out so often. At first, Linda laughed these remarks off, thinking they were harmless, but over time, each comment chipped away at the warmth between them. What once felt like friendship slowly began to resemble something else, something more like rivalry. That's the hidden danger of passive hostility. It doesn't arrive like a thunderstorm. It creeps in slowly, like a leaky faucet, drip by drip, filling the space with quiet tension. These individuals aren't interested in openly hurting you. That would be too bold, too risky. Instead, they undermine you little by little, hoping their words will go unnoticed. But deep down, you always notice. You always feel it. Here's the truth. They want you to second-guess yourself. They want you to shrink just enough so they can feel a little taller in comparison. That's not friendship. That's not love. It's a quiet form of sabotage. Jung often warned about this behavior. When people can't face the turmoil inside themselves, they project it onto others, especially those who seem happy, content, or free. That's why they can't celebrate your peace. Your happiness reminds them of their own unrest. So if someone close to you always has a sarcastic remark, constantly corrects you, or needs to get in a passive-aggressive jab every time you speak, if someone keeps making jokes about your memory or constantly points out your flaws, all under the guise of just kidding, don't ignore that pattern. It's not harmless teasing. It's hidden contempt, slipping through their words. You deserve to be surrounded by people who lift you up, who speak words that nourish and encourage, not those who question your every move or subtly tear you down. Protect your energy, guard your peace, and most importantly, remember this. What they say isn't really about you. It's about the unresolved issues they're carrying within themselves. Their words reflect their own discomfort, not your worth. If you're still here, watching this video, and finding these insights helpful, I'd love for you to comment the number 2 below. That way, I'll know you're here and engaged. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now's a great time to do so. Be sure to hit the notification bell as well, so you won't miss out on any future videos. Your support helps us continue creating meaningful content designed to inform, empower, and inspire you. Now, let's keep going. Sign number 3. Absence in the moments that matter. Sometimes what a person doesn't do speaks louder than what they actually do. They don't call when you're sick. They don't show up for your birthday. They ignore your doctor's visit, even though they knew it was coming. They don't check in after you've lost a beloved pet, a spouse, or even after you've had a rough day. And slowly, that silence begins to speak volumes. Carl Jung often emphasized that what people neglect reveals where their true priorities lie. When someone repeatedly fails to show up for you, not just in major life events, but in those small, everyday moments, They're sending a clear message. You are not their priority. Your well-being doesn't move them. Your struggles don't stir their compassion. And while this type of behavior may not feel like open hostility or loud, dramatic hatred, it is still a form of emotional abandonment. And here's the thing. When abandonment happens over and over again, it can start to feel a lot like resentment. Consider the story of Robert, an 82-year-old man. After his wife passed away, everything in his home started to fall apart. Quiet friends stopped by. Neighbors brought over warm meals. But his niece, the very one he had helped raise, never called. Not that day, not that week, not even after he gently reached out to her. Her reply was brief, almost dismissive. "Oh, sorry, Uncle Rob. I've just been so busy." But was she really too busy? She wasn't too busy to post updates on social media, to go out with friends, or to binge-watch every new show that came out. Somehow, she had time for all of that, but not a moment to check on the man who had bought her school books and walked her down the aisle on her wedding day. That's not forgetfulness. That's a choice. When people truly care, they find a way to show it. They make the effort, no matter how hectic life becomes. And when they don't, when they continuously fail to show up, it's not always out of cruelty or malice. Sometimes it's because they're quietly pulling back. They begin withdrawing their affection, their effort, and eventually their respect. They let the relationship slowly wither, not because they forgot to nurture it, but because they no longer wish to. Carl Jung often spoke about this hidden dynamic. When a person struggles to accept certain parts of themselves, such as their aging, their growing dependence, or their loneliness, they may start to reject anyone who reminds them of those very things. And sometimes, that person is you. So they pull away, they stop calling, they stop showing concern. Being around you forces them to confront parts of life they haven't made peace with, and that discomfort becomes too much for them to bear. It isn't just neglect, it's resistance, and it hurts in ways that words can hardly explain. Being ignored cuts deep, sometimes even deeper than being yelled at. After all, when someone yells, at least you know you matter enough to stir a reaction. But silence? Silence makes you feel invisible, like your very presence has become a burden or an inconvenience. But you must remember this truth. You deserve better. You deserve relationships where you are seen, heard, and valued, not just during good times, but especially when life gets difficult. You deserve warmth that remains steady, not one that vanishes the moment you need it most. And if there are people in your life who disappear every time you struggle, but suddenly reappear when they need something from you, believe that pattern. Love doesn't disappear when times get tough, but hidden resentment certainly does. When you start to feel that cold, growing distance from someone who once seemed close, remind yourself of this truth. It isn't your fault. You are not responsible for their discomfort with your aging, your vulnerability, or even your strength. That's their shadow to wrestle with, not yours to carry. Sign 4. Backhanded compliments and subtle put-downs. One of the clearest signs that someone may secretly resent you, especially as you grow older, often isn't in what they say, but in how they say it. They might offer a compliment, but there's a bitter edge to it, almost like it's wrapped in vinegar. "You're looking good, for your age. I wish I had the free time to nap like you do. It must be nice not worrying about keeping up anymore." At first glance, these remarks might seem harmless, even polite. But if you listen closely, you'll sense the sting beneath them. The message they're really sending is this: you're somehow lesser now, not quite who you used to be. Carl Jung frequently wrote about the concept of the shadow, that hidden, often denied part of ourselves that harbors anger, envy, and insecurity. People who secretly resent your presence, your wisdom, or your age often let those uncomfortable feelings seep out through veiled insults and passive comments. They won't call you slow, but they'll deliberately walk ahead of you. They won't directly say you're forgetful, but they'll repeat instructions slowly, as if you can't keep up. These behaviors may appear subtle, but they're not neutral. They're power plays, disguised as helpfulness, quiet reminders, meant to put you in your place. Let me share a story about Linda, a bright, spirited woman of 68. She used to light up every room, smart, witty, and full of kindness. But over time, she noticed her daughter-in-law making little jokes at her expense during family gatherings. "We better speak louder. Grandma's memory doesn't work after 6 p.m., her daughter-in-law would quip, triggering laughter from everyone around the table. Linda would force a polite smile, trying to shrug it off. But the jokes kept coming, always a jab at her age, her clothing choices, her pace. No direct insults, just a slow and steady erosion of her dignity, week after week. Eventually, Linda stopped attending the family dinners, not because she didn't love her family, but because each visit meant bracing herself for another round of quiet humiliation. She confided that it wasn't even the words themselves that hurt the most. It was the fact that none of the people she loved, stepped in to stop it. That's the nature of the shadow. It often slips out through sarcasm, through offhand jokes, or through remarks disguised as just teasing. But the unconscious mind isn't fooled. Deep down, it knows exactly what's happening. People who harbor resentment know exactly how to let it seep out, just enough to sting, but not enough to be called out directly. This is how emotional hostility hides in plain sight, disguised as harmless humor or offhand remarks. And when it happens to you, it can be incredibly confusing. You start questioning yourself, wondering, am I just being too sensitive? Maybe they didn't mean it that way. But here's the truth. If something hurts, it matters. If someone repeatedly leaves you feeling small, unimportant, or outdated, that's not just coincidence. That's their unresolved issues spilling over into your space. Carl Jung often reminded us that what we fail to face within ourselves, we end up projecting onto others. So if someone is uneasy about aging, losing their independence, or facing their own mortality, they may cope by mocking or belittling those who reflect those fears back to them. Why? Because it feels easier than confronting their own reflection in the mirror. But you are not here to be anyone's emotional punching bag. Aging is not something to be ashamed of. Slowing down is not a personal failure. Needing rest, asking for help, or requiring patience doesn't make you a burden. Anyone who makes you feel otherwise, whether through obvious jabs or subtle slights, is likely carrying a resentment they haven't even admitted to themselves. And no matter how well they hide it, their actions speak louder than words. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights helpful, I'd love for you to comment the number 4 below to let me know you're here and engaged. And if you haven't already, please take a moment to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss out on upcoming videos. Your support allows us to continue creating content that informs, empowers, and inspires you. Now, let's keep going. Sign 5. They withhold joy when something good happens to you. There's a strange kind of silence that settles in when someone close to you secretly resents you, and it often becomes most obvious when you're doing well. You might share something positive. Maybe you've picked up a new hobby, reached a personal milestone, or even something as simple as seeing your garden finally bloom after weeks of care. But instead of sharing your excitement, you're met with a blank stare, a half-hearted nod, or worse, a quick change of subject. They just can't seem to celebrate your happiness with you. Carl Jung believed that envy was one of the most hidden and most corrosive emotions, especially among people who feel they're supposed to love each other. When someone sees you thriving in an area where they feel stuck, it can stir up deep, unhealed insecurities within them. Instead of leaning in to share your joy, they pull away. Instead of sharing your joy, they retreat. They detach emotionally or even find subtle ways to minimize your success, as if downplaying it will somehow make them feel better. Take George, for example. He's 74 and had just returned from a short weekend fishing trip with some longtime friends. It had been years since he'd done something purely for himself, and he came back glowing with happiness. Eager to share his excitement, he told his son about the trip, hoping to spread a little of that joy. His son's response? A cold, disinterested, "Huh, must be nice not to have responsibilities." No smile, no curiosity, just a flat dismissal that left the air heavy with quiet disapproval. George later admitted He felt guilty for simply feeling happy, as if he had done something wrong by enjoying his life. That kind of reaction can easily make you question yourself. You might start wondering, did I sound like I was bragging? Was I being insensitive? But the truth is simple. Someone who truly loves you wants to see you enjoying life, especially in your later years. If your happiness makes someone else uncomfortable, it's not a reflection of anything you've done wrong. It's a mirror showing their own internal discomfort, triggered by seeing you content while they are not. People who secretly resent you rarely resort to shouting or open insults. Instead, they punish you in quieter, more subtle ways, with silence, with disinterest, and with an absence of shared joy. And that absence? It becomes heavier over time. It weighs down on your heart, making you hesitant to speak about the things that make you happy. You start holding back. You hesitate to shine. But here's something important to remember. You were not placed on this earth to dim your light, just to make someone else feel comfortable. Your happiness is not something to hide. Carl Jung once wrote that one of the greatest challenges in human relationships is learning to feel genuine joy for others without allowing our own shadows, our envy, our pain, our insecurities, to cloud that joy. If you notice that someone close to you consistently avoids eye contact when you're happy, shows no interest in your excitement, or never asks questions when you share good news, they might not even realize they're doing it consciously, but their subconscious is working overtime to make sure your joy never outshines their pain. And that's not your fault. Growing older comes with many lessons, and one of the most important is learning to protect your emotional space just as carefully as you protect your physical health. Joy isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. In fact, it's one of the final, most essential things we must learn to defend fiercely. So, if someone in your life can't celebrate with you, if they can't clap when you win, can't share your excitement, or can't even sit beside you without shrinking in discomfort when you feel alive, that's not love. That's quiet bitterness hiding beneath the surface. And you cannot let their hidden bitterness seep into your sense of self. You've worked hard for your happiness. You've earned every single smile, every small win, every peaceful moment of contentment. That joy is sacred. No one, absolutely no one, has the right to take it from you with a dismissive shrug or a tired sigh. Sign 6. They only reach out when they need something. One of the most telling signs of hidden resentment isn't loud or obvious. It's transactional. Over time, you stop being seen as a person with emotions and start being treated more like a resource, someone to call when they need a favor, but not when they simply want to connect. They rarely check in just to ask how you're doing. They don't seem to care about your well-being. But suddenly, when they need something, they remember your number. Now let's be clear. Helping one another is a natural, beautiful part of human relationships. But Carl Jung believed that when someone only engages with you when it benefits them, it reflects something deeper. It's a projection. They aren't truly seeing you. They're only seeing what they want from you. In their mind, you aren't a whole person with your own needs, feelings, and limits. You're a function, a service, a tool. This dynamic becomes even more common as we grow older. For some, watching an aging parent, friend, or sibling brings up uncomfortable emotions, guilt, frustration, or even hidden anger. They might resent what they think is your freedom, or they may feel burdened by what they see as your neediness. Or maybe it's simply that being around you reminds them that they too are aging, and that's something they can't face. So, they quietly rewrite the relationship. In their mind, the unspoken rule becomes, you're there to help when I need you, but otherwise, stay in the background. Let me share an example. Elaine, an 80-year-old woman, still lives alone. She's sharp, independent, and healthy, though she's understandably moving a little slower these days. Her niece only ever calls when she needs something, whether it's babysitting help or extra money for school supplies. There are no birthday calls, no casual check-ins, no just thinking of you messages. One day, Elaine wasn't feeling well, so she said no when her niece asked for help. And just like that, silence. No follow-up, no concern, No check-in afterward. The phone didn't ring again until 3 weeks later. Weeks later, the phone finally rang again. But it wasn't to ask how Elaine had been. It was just another favor. This kind of pattern leaves a person feeling used, unseen, and slowly, deeply unwanted. And here's where the psychology behind it turns even darker. When someone secretly harbors resentment, they often find ways to justify their transactional behavior to themselves. She has nothing else going on. He's retired. What else does he do with his time? These rationalizations help them avoid feeling guilty. In psychological terms, they're projecting their discomfort onto you. Instead of acknowledging their selfishness, they twist the story in their minds. You're the one who's too available, too clingy, too dependent. But relationships aren't like bank accounts. They're not meant to be all withdrawals and no deposits. If someone only reaches out when they need something, never offering emotional support, kindness, or even simple human warmth in return, that isn't a relationship. It's the slow, steady erosion of respect. And here's something crucial you need to hear. You are allowed to expect more. You are allowed to want connection, kindness, and genuine care, not just to be needed when it's convenient. That doesn't make you too much. It doesn't make you needy. It simply makes you human. So if someone in your life only shows up with a smile when they need something, then vanishes the moment you need support, don't dismiss it as just the way they are. That pattern is often a quiet truth in disguise, a subtle sign that resentment may have taken the place of love. You deserve more than to be needed. D.C. You deserve to be valued, fully and completely. If you're still here watching this video and finding these insights helpful, I'd love for you to comment the number 6 below to let me know you're still with me. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe and tap the notification bell so you never miss any future videos. Your support allows us to keep creating content that informs, empowers, and inspires. Now, let's move forward. Sign 7. They dismiss or mock your beliefs and joys. This one cuts deeper than most because it hides behind casual remarks, and it often starts with quiet laughter. When someone close to you begins mocking the things that bring you joy, or worse, the values that have guided and shaped your entire life, it's rarely just a harmless joke. More often than not, it's a reflection of something deeper and more complicated. Carl Jung wrote extensively about the human shadow, the parts of ourselves we try to hide, the emotions we suppress, and the uncomfortable feelings we often project onto others without realizing it. And one of the most common ways this hidden discomfort shows up is through ridicule. When someone teases or belittles something meaningful to you, whether it's your faith, your daily routines, or even something as simple as your choice to dress nicely, even if you're just staying at home, it's not always about you at all. In many cases, it's about the resentment they're carrying toward their own aging or the discomfort they feel when they see someone who has made peace with it. Let's take Harold, for example. He's 84, a retired music teacher who still begins every morning by playing the piano. He also attends church every Sunday because it helps him feel grounded and connected to something larger than himself. But his son, now in his 50s, can't seem to resist teasing him. "What's the point of all that now? You really think God is keeping score at your age? You're still dressing up just to sit at the piano in your living room? Seriously?" At first glance, these might sound like harmless, playful jokes, but over time, they start to wear Harold down. The true message hiding beneath them isn't humor, it's discomfort, maybe even envy. Jung would explain it this way. The son isn't really laughing at his father. He's laughing at the unresolved parts of himself, the parts that struggle with aging, with discipline, with a sense of spiritual distance. That's why these comments can cut so deeply, because they're not just about words, they're about the deeper truths people are too afraid to face within themselves. So, instead of confronting his own inner conflict, he mocks the man who has already found peace within himself. But here's the hidden cost of that behavior. When your beliefs are mocked, when your simple joys are dismissed or ridiculed, something inside you begins to shrink. You might stop sharing those stories. You may hesitate to talk about the things that bring you comfort, and little by little, often without even realizing it, you start to make yourself smaller just to avoid their disapproval. That isn't love. That isn't respect. And it certainly isn't the kind of relationship that feels safe or nurturing. Now, this doesn't mean every offhand joke or sarcastic comment is rooted in hatred. Sometimes, people just make careless remarks without thinking. But if it becomes a pattern, if every time you express yourself it's met with sarcasm, condescension, or eye rolls, you cannot afford to ignore it. Carl Jung believed that the shadow, the hidden parts of ourselves, only grows stronger when left unacknowledged. And in relationships, it tends to surface in these quiet but deeply painful forms of dismissal. You have every right to feel proud of your beliefs, your routines, and the joys you've worked hard to cultivate in your daily life. You've earned them through years of living, failing, learning, and growing stronger. No one has the right to belittle that. No one, not even the people closest to you. True love doesn't mock what it doesn't understand. It respects it. It honors it, even if it can't fully relate. And if there's someone in your life who regularly tries to undermine or minimize the things that bring you peace and happiness, maybe it's time to take a step back and ask yourself, why do they feel the need to dim your light just to feel more comfortable in their own skin? You deserve so much more than that. You deserve a space where you can be fully and unapologetically yourself. Final thoughts. Getting older isn't just about wrinkles or slower steps. It's about gaining clarity. It's about becoming more attuned to the quiet, subtle patterns in the way others treat us. And often, the most painful realizations we face aren't about the body. They're about the people we once trusted with our hearts. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." That truth couldn't be more important, especially now. If we don't pay attention to these hidden signs, the jokes that sting, the offers of help that feel more like humiliation, or the silences that leave us feeling isolated, we risk accepting and normalizing behaviors that quietly erode our peace of mind. If you recognized even one of these 7 signs in your own life, please understand, you are not overreacting. You are waking up, and that is powerful. It means you still have the strength to set boundaries, to guard your heart, and to walk away from those who may share your last name but no longer share your best interests. The true wisdom that comes with age isn't just about what we've learned. It's also about what we no longer tolerate. You don't owe anyone blind forgiveness. What you do owe yourself is dignity, clarity, and space to breathe freely. And remember this, kindness does not mean blindness. You can care about people from a safe distance. You can forgive others without stepping back into the same painful situations. You can stand tall, even if it means standing alone. Thank you so much for spending your time with us today. We'd love to hear from you. Please leave a comment below and share one thing you've learned from this video and how you plan to apply it in your own life. Your thoughts matter, and we always appreciate hearing your stories. Reading your comments brings us great encouragement and motivation. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please take a moment to like, subscribe, and share it with others. Your support helps us continue creating valuable content to inform, empower, and inspire. Wishing you good health, happiness, and peace. And remember, don't forget to subscribe to our channel.